All right, guys. So they released multiple articles going over some of the information that's coming out about Splitgate 2 and some of the leaks and other info that wasn't widely available on Twitter. So first we got the IGN article. And in this article, we have a few very key points that we're going to go over before we move on to the second one that me and Bitey are going to discuss. They did say that they're going to be releasing the game sometime in 2025. They also did release their companion app that has comics on it and like digital cards that you can get that are based on each character, and they're going to be giving out cosmetics based on that as well. They do say that it's going to be a 4v4 for sure. And they mentioned that there are going to be fewer portal walls in Splitgate 2 than in 1, but their placement's more deliberate. So this does hint at the fact that they've toned down the portaling a bit, as well as added other abilities. So another thing they do mention for sure is that there will be a playtest around the Gamescom, which is going to be around this year. I think it's in August or around then. So we should be expecting a playtest this year in 2024 and the game in 2025. So in this video, me and Bitey are going to be going over the articles that they released about the next Splitgate, go over some of the things that we might theorize are going to be in the next game, and some general thoughts that we have going into it as OG players and competitors from the first game. Make sure you guys like and subscribe if you want to see more of this type of content.
They shut it down, but I think they started before.
Yeah, earlier than they actually announced it.
We've been working on Splitgate 2 for so long, which... what is long to me is like 3 years. You know, that's a long time.
Yeah.
Sometime in 2022.
So in 2022, it's been like around they're releasing it 3 years after they stopped development, at least when they said they stopped development.
Okay, yeah. 3 years later, about roughly release time, because they said 2025 on the video.
So 3 years minimum, right? And then maybe even longer if they started a bit before then. Like if they were just doing stuff.
Yeah, they definitely had ideas percolating before.
Yeah. And like the whole thing about them starting with 20 people, they had more than 100 people hired already at that point. Like they started very early with their hiring process, so they had that going.
Early Splitgate days, you know, the demo before that 2020 release or whatever.
Yeah. Like before the first release, the soft release, before like that's even before console release. We're talking like a few years before that.
Yeah, because it's been up for a while.
It actually has been a minute, bro. It's crazy to think about how many years it's actually been since the beginning of Splitgate.
The thing I'm still like thinking about is this multiplayer only shooter, no single player campaign, but they hired the writer to build it out. And that's like,
what game was the writer from that they hired? It was like some big game,
like Daily or something, right? Maybe Destiny. I feel like if anybody got hired from anything, it's probably Destiny.
I remember it being Destiny or something, right? Yeah, like it was something like that.
It's a sci-fi writer, whoever it is.
So if they're doing like instance-based, like some kind of like non-campaign story, because they're mentioning in here they're not going to have a campaign, but they're going to have lore, they're going to have the factions, and it's very likely that they have an entire like story or lore system built within that, whatever the PvE is going to be, some kind of PvE. Maybe it's just purely a PvP based system too. Who knows? It could be like some kind of like a lore based PvP.
I'm taking instance. A bet.
What do you think?
I think it might be cinematics. We played Concord, right?
Yeah.
Not a great game, but the cinematics, to their credit, are kind of cool, right?
Very
if you had a good game underneath it, and then you made cinematics, like the trailer was pretty, you know, it paced well. It seems like it wants you to learn more about these characters they showcased. Yeah. I could see like a little bit of a video being made up, and, you know, with the comics that you should review.
Yeah. We're going to have a video coming soon of the comics, guys. Yeah. Keep an eye out for that.
That, to me, is like, okay, it's weird for a PvP shooter to have a really thick story without any PvE echo elements. Because, you know, I mean, maybe it's in there. But
yeah.
They said right here they're not going to have that, so it's got to be like, well... is it going to, like, chart my progress? Like, I picked this faction. Looks like not the Overdogs, that's the finals. Looks like the Split Gators, the Gator
Meridians.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Meridians. Yeah, there you go.
Yep, there we go.
The Meridians this season are really on top of it.
That's I think that's what it's going to be. That's a good. But, like, bro, I just realized, look, it says, though we're a multiplayer only shooter, and we don't have a single player campaign. A multiplayer only shooter could still be like that PvE or like Firefight or like Diabolical or any of those like group co-op based games that are shooters. It's not a single player campaign, but it could still be an entire story based system. You know, they could still have that going on, even if it's not a single player campaign.
Here's another one that came out. You remember Helldivers and its live service story that kind of got a lot of people interested? You could write about the 3 factions and then make like news posts about how they're doing. So let's say I go into faction A and I'm playing hard. You play with me and we get enough wins in this seasonal, and the story changes based on the players making the factions win their matches, right? So then you have an immigrant story about the faction winning for the season, and then you like do a piece on the characters that are a part of it. I guess that would be a way for me as a group of players to pick my favorite and give them as many wins as they can. That unlocks group wins and then faction skins.
Yeah. Like global objectives like they have where you complete those challenges as a group, and then you'll be able to get certain rewards that incentivize players to participate in that faction war that's going on.
That'd be okay. That would actually be kind of cool.
That would be cool.
I like the Helldivers system. I thought it was a little goofy, but you know, if I unlock skins for playing for my faction, and it's not like insanely hard, you know, and you know, maybe the seasons are kind of quick, you know, I could like, okay, let's say we win faction. Yeah, they're the champs of the season. Then okay, reset next season. Okay, we swap to faction 2, unlock their shit. You know, just repeat and rinse, and you could get a couple months of content easy as, you know, then you write a story about A being top tier. I wish I knew the faction names. I don't know them yet. But then it's
Meridian's
like, okay,
one.
now Meridian,
sure
all right,
one.
okay, we join Meridian in season 2. We give them the comeback king story. They're now on top, and then we resign from them. We go to faction 3, and then we, you know.
Yeah, and what's cool about that is they can in real time make adjustments based on which factions are actually doing well or not. They can make the story for the next step be according to that. So in real time, the world is changing according to what's happening. Kind of like Helldivers, like you said, in the open world. That's a really cool thing.
It's kind of like that D&D, kind of like he just adapts the story based on one.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That would be so cool. I didn't even think about that, but it could be an entire system based on that and be like a very cool PvE system or like whatever system outside of just the multiplayer arena side of the game.
Because they have, all right. And remember, Mike, they have an app, okay?
They do.
Well, if we think about this for a moment, they built an app. Standalone app that's already out, and it's kind of got some stuff happening. It's got collectibles, and if there's an app, that means there's probably more stuff they're going to do with it to link it in, which this might be it. This might be something that's percolating, some system like this. I would bet that there is something here that's going to attach player choices to a wider story, because it does suck people in when your faction is winning, or even you can give losers stuff too. Like, people love an underdog. Hang in there, champ. Even though it doesn't look like we're going to end the season strong, we're going to come out on top, you know, keep going, keep fighting hard.
They could do that. And then like they could have a reputation system where you're like building your rep with that group over time. And you can do that through the missions, through PvE. You could do that through PvP, different challenges. And then they could even connect the 2 modes, the multiplayer PvP and the PvE together if they were to do something like that.
I think I don't think there's going to be bots. I mean, there'll be bot matches, right? If Splitgate had it.
Like you're saying like PvE, like purely PvE.
Wins. I think it'll be pure PvP. And whether you win or lose contributes something to your faction.
They could do that with pure PvP. Yeah, they could definitely do that even without the whole PvE element, assuming they don't do that. Do you remember the trailer or the teaser they did before? It was like a room, the Hall of Fame room, but it looked like there were different portals that led to different parts. And there was like a grassland area, a fireland area. So it looked like it was instance-based sections or teleporters that took you to different areas. And I don't know if that's going to be maybe like a Destiny type tower, or maybe that was just, who knows, maybe it was just like a thing, like a teaser just generally showing what the game would be like, or showing some stuff, and maybe it's not even in the game. But it looks like they are going to have different types of modes. Maybe that's going to be external to the whole PvP arena shooter general like default thing they had going in the last game.
Yeah. I mean, I'm just watching your trailer thing again.
I'm going back to
start in that room, and then I bet it's like a little, because honestly, overworld stuff where like your party just jumps around and hangs out, probably a pretty good experience.
A lot of games are doing that now.
Yeah, because it's like like I don't know if you remember Hyperscape. It had the same thing. You spawn in this like overworld, and then you would run into the portal to choose it, or you could just menu select.
Oh yeah, you're right. Yeah, it did have that. I like that because it kind of engages you with the world itself too. It's like, okay, we're creating an additional step between you, the character, and the world, where you're controlling your character in the world, and then you, with that character, choose to go into the battles or like the different places.
Yeah. And then there's like a menu system that you can skip all that. But I remember you would jump around in the lobby, and you could parkour in the room and just do goofy stuff while you waited for your buddies. And I could see it.
Yeah.
I could see it.
So I'm trying to go to that section of that original trailer they had released to see. So one side says rainforest holographic simulation before you walk into it on the right side. It's like a portal wall at the end of it on the right. On the left, it was like more of like a magma one. And then in the center, there's just a giant portal. So it's like those could be distinctly different like instances or like queues or whatever it is that you can go into. This one says like, what is it? I don't even know. It's like fire something. It's like a fire thing. So, I mean, going back to the original article, the main thing that he did emphasize is that they're not going to be doing the campaign thing. So it's not going to be like the typical, you're like Halo, you load in multiplayer versus campaign. Like it's not going to be like that.
Yeah.
And they're emphasizing the faction-based multiplayer. Bro, what if they do open world and it's just like that could be crazy, man. I don't think they're
gonna do open world.
I don't think they will either, because they did showcase the multiplayer maps. There are a lot of multiplayer like arena based maps they did showcase, but the whole faction based thing, I think it could easily be what you're saying, where it's like a macro level faction based system with like questing and like the achievements and all that.
The only other thing you could take from this is like, these maps could be mega maps like planet side. Like that's a really small chance of happening. But you could have like arenas that you traverse to on the overworld, either via portals or whatever. Maybe something like that. But I think it's going to be a little bit small. I don't think it'll be that big. That's huge.
That would be huge if they did open.
It would be interesting, and it would probably be very compelling. But I think that scope is like absolutely massive. Because the quote here is that, how do we keep this fun all year round? I think the idea train we talked about earlier, to me, and I'm a hard guy to sell to, is that would be kind of cool. Is if things change based on what faction I play for, and do I get sucked into the merch for my faction? Do I keep going hard for it? I tell my friends to come in, hey, join this faction with me. We get rewards together, and then build a game that can last a decade or more.
That is huge, because the only game I think of when I think of that is something like Roblox, Fortnite, where they have things built into the game that allow for community customization and longevity based on things outside of the game's original design.
And they did a pretty big partnership with Epic. I wouldn't be surprised if they opened up like a mod market. It's hard to say because Fortnite's so big.
Yeah.
But you could try to make like an open version of a game that lets that down the road. I don't think on release we'll see anything like that though.
Yeah, that's like down the line. They'll be like, we have some kind of a creator thing or like a Forge or more beyond even just basic Forge. Like this is a huge claim to say build a game that can last a decade or more. No game has done that. Like, yeah, Counter-Strike's been around for a while, for like in the shooter space.
Every 8 years though.
Yeah, yeah, right around.
At least
that.
By now, yeah, it's like every 8 years they update it. But it's the same game. Very simple game, but a lot of depth.
Yeah, I think that whole like overarching story thing where the world constantly changes, the factions have an impact on that, that's a very easy way to also be able to make a game last a while. Because like, you remember in Helldivers, that was a very good comparison, because they would be like, oh look, this is what you were doing this whole time, this was the layout of the entire galaxy and how we were fighting, and because of something that happened, because of player interaction, now there's some kind of a change in the battlefield, and based on that we have to react accordingly. Let's say like the Terminates did something or whatever it is, it changes the landscape of what the actual gameplay loop even is.
Here we
you
go.
get what I'm saying? Like originally.
Yeah, and then, okay, we got it. So they're gonna make multiple versions of the maps, and the maps might change based on how the factions are doing, and that's how you do it cheap but effective. Like maybe, you know, they hang some new banners up, they take over somebody's map, or there's like things that faction has done to the map, and it just, you know, it shifts the map a little bit for the season. So, you know, season happens, okay, it looks like these, you know, we built multiple versions of each map, so then we can change the map based on what the player factions do, how they work, and then, you know, oh my god, and then you have like in the overworld, you've got the trophy hall, where it's like, oh, look who won the first season, and then you get like a little thing with it because you contributed.
And
so
then
like
the TVs in that room, imagine they're just constantly broadcasting what they would tweet in Helldivers, where they're like, oh, breaking news, there's this and that happening with this faction, and they just constantly loop it like a news thing on the overworld TVs.
Yeah, I could see like a system built for that, because Helldivers came out December-ish?
Yeah, around there, I think.
Yeah, it was the first quarter of this year, and I mean, building all that up, I could see it happening. In 6 months, it might be a little stretch, but it's just a couple videos, a hub room, and then like you got your trophy shelf where each season a faction wins, and you know, it could even be like, you know, if you're a part of that faction for the win, you put a trophy on the shelf.
I'm showing them the thing right now, the Hall of Fame room that they had showed with like the walls and like different things on the walls, and like they could easily do that. I could see them doing that. And like you see how like, bro, at the top two of that room, that overworld room, the Aramid and the Meridian, like they have banners going across the top, so their branding and their everything is in that room everywhere already, you know. So it does seem like they have that level of macro scale, something like going on in the universe that you're playing from that perspective.
Yeah, I could see that. I mean, it'd have to be a pretty brainy person to predict Helldivers before they released, but you know, I mean, it's not out of the question.
Yeah.
So, and it would suck people in. It would make them feel like they're a part of something bigger, and then you get that organic community rush to like make our faction win. Let's go.
Yeah. They naturally will they'll want to be involved with the game, like actively, outside of just playing the gameplay loop, because it's fun.
And we don't actually know how many characters there are, right?
We don't, like, but in the trailer, it did show one specific section that had pods. And in those pods, I'm going to go to it right now, there were 4 specific names that it did mention. And those 4 names, I don't know if that's like the only ones that are going to be in the game, but let's look at that real quick. Let me see what the names were.
Yeah, because it says
there we go.
Shinji, Mira, FaZe, and Proto.
You read that? As in the video, it went through each one. That was crazy, bro. Wow, that timing was insane. Yup. So those are the 4.
I'm curious if it's just these 4, or maybe they'll have like 16 of these. I feel like the more you create, it depends how fast this game is, but the more people you put in, it gets hard. It's all about how fast is this game going to be? Can you make enough identities to fill out, 16 characters?
Yeah.
On launch.
You see the numbers, right? Like 0, 16, 20. Like, you think they go the League route, Overwatch route, or they just have a ton of classes?
I think that's more like sports identifies, the number is just random.
It could just be, yeah.
I think, dude, 28 on release.
That would, yeah,
Overwatch
you're right. That's
and Paladins
insane.
both did not have 20. It was like 16.
Most games don't with character systems.
Yeah,
like
I
that.
think it's the sports nomenclature.
Just not, yeah.
A random number. Oh, 00 is Proto because he's the prototype.
Yeah, he's, right. Okay, yeah.
Shinji, number 6. Okay, that doesn't make any sense. I watched Evangelion. I don't think that's phase 24. I don't see any like correlation
Yeah.
here. But it says work hard, play smart up there, bro. Emphasis on the play smart.
Is crazy.
Don't work hard, play smart. Work smart, play hard. That's what it should say.
Works. Yeah. Another thing they're mentioning is for sure Unreal Engine 5. That was obviously like assumed, but they're saying it's going to be an FPS. There are portals, and it's going to be on Unreal 5, and it's going to be, this is something crazy that also I didn't expect. It's going to be on the old generation consoles and the new generation consoles as well. So PS5, PS4, and both Xbox systems as well as on Steam. If we go to the Steam page real quick and scroll down, the recommended and minimum requirements for the game are very low compared to what I expected. The one thing that's kind of high relative to what most games have is 12 gigs of RAM. But other than that, an i7 4770 and a 1060 or an RX 580 is their recommended specs. That's not even minimum. That's their recommended. So how are they going to do that? Like, the game looks really good. They just have it
on
really
Steam,
well optimized.
It's 4v4, so I mean, with only 8 people, they might have like redone how portaling works. They definitely have improved their mapping and like optimization routes. I mean, I don't know. Games like Apex run really well, and they have tons of people. So I would say that there's probably enough improvement to where, if you didn't want to make fidelity your goal, you could easily just like simplify a lot of this. And I mean, dude, Splitgate already got like 100 plus frames when it came out. That's like before it optimized.
Before it, it used to run really well regardless. Wow, this is actually kind of crazy. So I think the 4v4 thing is like the main thing. It says like already it describes it as a 4v4 free-to-play shooter, redefining what it takes to be number one, choose your faction. So the main game itself, it still seems to be that 4v4 free-to-play shooter model, but it just seems like they're going to have more layers to the game outside of just, here, load into a multiplayer map and play.
Yeah, I mean, you could just see it on that Steam page. It tells you what it's going to be. Action, FPS shooter, multiplayer, 4v4. But what they probably really focused on is making something that feels like you're a part of a league. Like that's really all I can see is like the big change here. And then, like just simplification of the game just a little bit so that it's more accessible. But
look at the side. Do you see this? For the tags for the game, it says in-app purchases, Steam achievements, cross-platform multiplayer, online PvP, and then it says single player at the way top. But in the interview, Ian said that it's not going to be a single player campaign. That's interesting. Why do they have the single player tag on there then?
I don't know. It doesn't say PvE yet.
Yeah, it doesn't say PvE.
I mean, usually that
that could be a hint.
Something you can do with the app in the game?
Maybe. There's like its own like another mode that's just solo. Maybe they're counting like the racing. They're going to have a racing thing as like,
Oh, yeah.
That could be it.
If there's racing and just other games that maybe you don't. Yeah, you could technically also play Splitgate solo too, right? Because there's bots.
That's true.
So, I mean, I feel like it's a little it's got to be general.
Yeah, it is general.
You could do the racing.
Whatever the instance-based thing is going to be. I'm convinced they're going to do some kind of like that rainforest and lava two-sided thing on the trailer makes me think that it's going to be something that like instance-based.
4v4. Oh man, I don't know, dude.
PvE is possible too,
Yeah, it is. And honestly, those are such a like big game lately. Like that is a huge franchise.
Everyone's doing that, yeah.
Everybody's trying to get their foot in the door for it.
Even Destiny switched over to that when they originally weren't.
Yeah.
So you could do like the group raids or whatever. Another team.
It is a good thing to keep people interested. Is PvE. And would that be I don't know. Would you call that a campaign? Destiny has a physical campaign.
Yeah. So. I think you could definitely argue that that's not a campaign. Like you could define that as a non-campaign based PvE system. That's crazy. That's the new generation, Bitey. That's what it is. They're not campaigns anymore. It's not a campaign.
I think that's going off the deep end.
Yeah,
I definitely think it's a little. I think it's going to be the you're a part of the season and you're contributing to some overworld stuff.
Mhm.
I mean, yeah, there's racing. There's got to be something besides just winning to help. Be a part of the races.
Yeah, and that's also
they could
contributing.
have a full underground, like they could have a race mode.
Underground
like
race mode. Underground racing. That'd be cool.
It might just be overtop racing. You know,
overworld overtop racing.
Welcome to the Splitgate Race League. Gentlemen, search your portals.
That would be cool. And then you would distribute the point system for factions based on not only the race leaderboards, ranked leaderboards, challenges, world challenges. Like you could do a lot and then
just
promote
think of like no resets, just live race. And then you have like a circuit of races. Like Toby, Chenzo, Jalen, all in this like series. So it's a race series.
Yeah, like just racing.
And you get one shot. You get one shot, set a good time. If you get first, you get first. If you don't, you don't.
Yeah.
And then it does like 3 races, and the best of the 3 races wins the little set. You get your XP.
That would be so cool.
Just like ghost, like I don't know.
Do something for the racers. Do something for like the general players, the ranked competitive players. Each category and faction should all be integrated one way or another.
Yeah, I think that might be happening.
Oh, this is so, bro. This is so hype, man. They actually released a lot of information. I'm excited.
I'm curious to see if this guess of ours was right.
I'm very excited too.
Live service campaign. What do I get if I'm right? I don't know. Maybe I'll sub you on.
We'll do a little wager. Yep, we'll see. And I'll do the same, vice versa.
Well, what are you gonna bet that it's? Well, wait, that doesn't work because it's a good idea.
That is true. That is true. This is gonna be sick, dude. One way or another, one thing I do know is that this game is gonna blow up regardless, 100%. It's gonna take off, at least in the beginning. Whether or not it's gonna be something that, like Ian said, is gonna be a decade-long game with that much longevity. It's a big claim.
Reminds me of just promise the world, bro. Like, listen,
Literally.
There's a lot of good games coming out. Okay, there are big dogs, big games. I mean, I don't know.
You know, with their investment, they at this point can claim to be one of those big dogs. You know, the $100 million investment. They are a AAA game now, so they're gonna be able to bring out all of the cards, whatever it is that they're gonna be able to do, whatever they set out to do, they're gonna be able to do it. Let's just hope that their goal of what they're going to do with the game and being able to achieve 10-year long longevity, like if you're going to try to do what Fortnite did, what Roblox did, it's going to take a lot, and it's going to have to include a lot of community integration as well, which, I mean, this whole faction system could do that. Like we were talking about how it's incentivizing the players to be involved with the universe. In a lot of ways it's going to be doing that, but now how are you going to funnel that drive and that like that desire to play the game or be a part of the world to create the longevity? How are you going to do that? That's going to be the key.
It definitely takes some brainy people to like get to what Fortnite's done. Talking with alternate, like when we talk about games, the biggest thing is like you have to be willing to absolutely shake it up. Like, do not get stuck in a meta. Do not get stuck in pure balance. You every 6 to 8 months. You just come in with the wrecking ball, blow it up, and if you got enough people, hopefully you can sustain it. But
yeah,
that is how you get ultra long-term people, because you got to mix it up for me to stay interested.
Yeah,
there's going to be a ton of games coming out. You better be fresh on the heels.
And we were talking about that the other day, how Fortnite does that really well because they have they have the dev power to do so. They constantly change the game, change or add stuff to the game, do mix-ups to the overall, like the world itself. Even if the core mechanics don't necessarily change that much, your gameplay loop will be adjusted over time, and it keeps it fresh, even for somebody who likes the game.
They better have some cool skins, okay?
They're going to have cool skins. There's no doubting that. The first game had some of the most amazing skins. Imagine what the second one's going to be like.
Bro, I had one skin, okay? That spoke.
Did you really only have one skin?
I wore one skin.
You had the
bro,
rhino. I remember it was the rhino.
It was the golden thing.
Golden rhino.
And I listen, it's got to have the anime. It's got to have the freaking sci-fi. Well, it's already sci-fi. So you need to get a little bit of like, maybe like a cyberpunkish kind of look too.
Yeah.
And then you got to get out there. You got to get out there.
I just got a text message showing some of the classes and what the classes, like a description of the classes. I think this is from the
That's
app.
another video, Mike. We can't just do everything all at once.
You're right. We'll save that for the next video. But yeah, chat, that's going to be it for me and Bitey today going over this article. I appreciate you guys watching. Make sure you guys drop a like and subscribe if you guys enjoyed it. I'll be dropping Bitey's links in the description as well if you guys want to follow him. He's an awesome streamer, makes some awesome content, so check him out as well. And we'll see you guys in the next video.